Is this what your shop stool looks like? Well, we've got something brand new for you. I'm Tim Johnson. You're watching Shop Tool Reviews. If you're like us and most other shops, you probably buy several of these things a year. If not this exact one, then probably something close to it. It's got a hydraulic cylinder on it. It's got these cheap casters on it. And sometimes they roll until they hit something or until they get a flat spot. Anyway, it's time to do away with those. It's time to do away with those. Anyway, we've got something from Vyper Chair. We've seen this for the last couple of years at SEMA, at least the last couple of years, and have been really excited to try it. We finally got one in, so let's quit murmuring about it. As always, let's dive in, take a closer look at each one of the features. While we're putting it together, we'll talk about the different features and how they may stand out amongst the rest after we get it all put together. Maybe use it a little bit. We'll come back and talk about pricing, warranty, and some other options that you can go with. Well, let's open up the box and see what we get. I would recommend that you have a couple of tools available. We'll talk about the major tools here in a moment, but the first tool you'll need is one of these. Yeah, to get the biggest shop vac you can to start this thing off. I'll show you why. So we're going to open up the box. Get a big steel ring. This is your foot ring, so we can lay that aside. Very cool decal. And we decided to get the elevated steel max. You can get aluminum versions of this, or you can decide to get the low slung, lower shop seat, but we got the elevated steel max. So this is a larger, higher seat. Warning, don't eat any of this. Okay, that's good. Anyway, so this is why I said we needed a shop vac. Get rid of all this stuff. Now, doesn't that beat all those falling all over the floor? Anyway, we'll set this stuff aside and bring it back up as we move the box. Nuts and bolts, hardware, all right there in a nice baggie. Nice heavy-duty Ziploc like that. Very nice casters. By the way, you can get these different colors, and these are well-made industrial-grade casters, not your typical Harbor Freighters. Okay, now we're getting to the meat of it. We have the cushion. Very nice. Looks like a 4-inch thick cushion, 3 or 4 inches. I would say that's 4. We'll measure that here in a few moments. And there's the Vyper Chair logo right there on there. By the way, you can get your company logo or maybe your name or initials or whatever you want logoed on there as well. So that's actually stitched in. A very nice double stitching around here as well. So you have the seam in here where it's sewn together, and then also we have this double stitching around here. Looks like it may be stainless steel rivets. Those are staples. Looks like it may be stainless steel staples. And by the way, they've done an excellent job at, looks like they probably have a template that cuts this circle out. So no jagged edges, no wrinkles or anything. They pulled that nice and taut. All those are nice and level. So very nice job. And then we have the T-insert fasteners in there where we'll actually thread in the bolts that will grab those T-nuts that are actually in there and embedded into that wood. It also looks like 3/4 inch plywood because I'm seeing several layers of plywood there, and those things are pretty deep. At least 1/2 inch. That's more than 1/2 inch for that seat cushion. So again, let's lay that to the side. And that's for the backrest, so that hooks to the bottom of the cushion. And then our backrest goes on here. The Acme thread. So here's the Acme thread that is going to last forever. If you've ever seen your grandpa's or great-grandpa's shop stool that probably, or even office chair that had these Acme threads on there, it's probably still rolling around today. Unlike many of the shop stools and office chairs that you buy today. So very well made, welded steel. You see that Acme thread welded right there. Looks like 1 inch as well. This is kind of the meat of it that meets all the legs and the Acme thread. Yep, there's the threads for the Acme screw right there. You can lay that. Nice milling as well. My goodness. Very nice tight tolerance. Looks like that's going to thread onto there with some countersunk screws. Very nice piece. Very nice milling. Oh, let's see here. Yeah, there's our base supports. We chose black, by the way. You can get this in multiple colors. I think that may be everything. Yeah, it looks like it. Get our box out of the way. All right, let's get everything back in the picture here. Hardware, Acme screw, cushion. Beautiful cushion, by the way. We didn't see the backrest. Backrest is logoed as well. Again, somewhere you can put your logo if you want to. And looks like the braces that connect everything, and then our foot ring is over here, but we'll go ahead and keep that. Looks like stainless steel, by the way. Definitely is. And it looks like we got some instructions here. Yeah, but who needs instructions, right? Pretty simplistic. One thing I was curious about, yeah, it doesn't really say. Anyway, yeah, let's get started putting this together and talk about some of the components as we do it. So first thing it looks like they recommend is putting the different uprights together onto the major hub of this whole assembly. And let's go ahead and get our hardware out. I don't think you're going to have a problem with those breaking, by the way. These are all hardened bolts, by the way, you can tell. So grade 8 hardened bolts. And these are for the casters. So these 5 are for the casters. And this is your clamp to actually, once you adjust the seat, you can actually clamp this down and kind of hold its position right there. See, this goes around there, clamp it tight, and that's going to hold around that Acme shaft. Okay, what we're going to start with here, we're going to use these 5/16, 18 half-inch and 5/16, 18 3/4-inch bolts with the nuts as well to attach our legs to the center hub here. I don't know if they call it the center hub. Let's see what they call this. Center. Man, did I nail that or what? Center hub. Great idea, guys. Don't need to cut that. You're saying, Tim, why do you wear gloves, or why are you wearing gloves? Well, I got hands fit for radio. No, I just didn't want to get grease all over this. I was messing with greasy stuff, and my hands look terrible in the wintertime. Anyway, let's get started here. So we have 2 different size bolts. Why is that? Well, the shorter bolts will actually move that there. The shorter bolts are actually going to go through the steel leg and thread directly in to the center hub. And the longer ones are going to, I'll show you here in a moment. And the longer ones are going to go through and thread the nuts connecting these 2 to one another. Okay? Pretty self-explanatory, right? So let's go ahead and time-lapse this. We'll get this finished up. Okay, we've got all the nuts and bolts in here, and all the bolts actually attached to the center hub. We do not have any of them tight. All of them are just kind of hand snug, not even snug. They're very loose, but they're all in there. And before we tighten any of them, we're going to make sure that we get everything together. So we've made it past the first page, and now we need to connect to our ring and our braces that connect each of the feet. Let's leave off the ring first, and let's go to these here. Looks like these are powder coated steel. And by the way, don't forget something here, because what you're going to have, got a couple of things going on here. We have not only this steel, but also the brace here, and we have 2 layers of that, and the caster that these bolts and nuts have to go through, or the bolts have to go through, and then the nuts are going to go on the bottom. So we're going to put the bolts through the top. In fact, let's do this. How's that? Be easier to see, won't it? Again, really tight tolerance, not really tight, but tight tolerances there. Fit very well. I believe these are 3/4 inch. We will take a gander at that in a moment. Okay, there's one. Now here is my OCD kicks in and says, well, do I overlap the top here and go under here, or do I go over, under, over, under, over, under? Man, that just kind of drives me crazy. So if I went over, under, so that's over, this one's under, that one's over, and this one's under, that wouldn't work because they're uneven. So I have to go, oh man, that drives me nuts. It'll be okay, I promise. That's just me. I promise you, either way, it's not going to affect the stool. That's just my OCD. Okay, so I've gone, this one's under, then it's over, this one's under, then it's over. Okay, let's double check. Over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. Yes. So at least we have some sort of systematic assemblance. Is that a word? Who knows? Anyway, we're there. So all these again, hand tight. Now we can flip this back over. Might be a little wobbly from none of those being tight, but it's okay. We will be okay. And then these actually will thread through the legs here and use the rest of these 3/4 inch fasteners. By the way, the fit of all these, very impressive. No matter where I'm going to, I'm not having any trouble. I'm not having to get a screwdriver to line up any holes. Here, I'm going to speak too soon. You watch. But no, just very impressive so far, the build quality of this stool. And of course, I'm putting all these bolts facing the same direction. Drive me nuts if I didn't do that. Well, at least in its own realm. I think you could probably roll the car on these casters, by the way. Okay, so we got all 5 of those in. We've got our foot ring on. We've got our braces attached. We've got the hub assembly. Now it's time to move on. Okay, page 2. Done. Page 3. So we'll attach the center hub and the clamp. All right, let's put our center hub on. And by the way, these look like stainless Allen head screws as well. I'm quite confident they are. You know, something else you could do, especially since this thing's going to last a lifetime, you could put some anti-seize on these bolts that are actually going into the aluminum, help them from not ever seizing up due to the different types of metal, types of alloy that they're going into. And it seems that these are 4mm hex or Allen. And I think we can go ahead and tighten this one up. Don't go crazy. You are threading into aluminum. Okie doke. Then our clamp, put on there. And by the way, you can tighten this here and then push that down to tighten up that clamp. We'll leave that loose for right now. Now we're going to thread on our Acme nut, or Acme screw. By the way, don't grease this. If you grease it, you'll just get dirt and stuff sticking to it. You can put a little lube on it if you want to, but make sure your surface is very clean for the next step. And that is for the cushion. Which, by the way, these are 10 millimeter bolts. I believe the others are 1/2 inch or 13 millimeter. And the largest one, the casters, are actually 3/4 inch or 19 millimeter. So I've got all those started. We can go ahead and tighten these. And by the way, I've got this kind of set on auto. We're not going to over torque it. Just going to snug those, and I can come back and hit them later. And now we can put in the Acme screw or the actual cushion. And then we can clamp that where whatever height we want. So you see how that works. I can tighten that with that little thumb screw to where at least I've got some tension. Don't overdo this. You don't need to. And you can tighten it up over time as well. So you've got more room to play. So that kind of locks that in there. Locks that into place. Loosen it up. And there you go. All right, let's tighten the rest of these, and then we'll get the backrest on there. In fact, let's remove this seat so that we can tighten these, and we'll at least run it up. There we go. Now we'll tighten these here, and again, 13 millimeter. Okay, so to get these are 3/4 inch or 19 millimeter on the top and bottom. Really no way to get, even with a swivel in there, with a socket and ratchet, or even with an impact. So I'm going to go ahead and grab 2 wrenches, and you can see that I've got a 19 and a 3/4. So you can use 2 3/4, 2 19s, whatever you've got. You'll have to use an open end on the bottom one, and it looks like an open end on the top as well. By the way, this is a place where you can use the old flippy wrench. So that's why there's an offset on that opening there. You flip your wrench, and then you're not always fighting for the angle. One more. And that one's good. Looks like we're good to go. We've just got to put on our backrest. Okay, I'm going to cheat on this one. I'm going to put our stool or our cushion upside down right here, and I'm going to take my backrest and put it right here so I'm not working upside down, and very tough for showing you as well. So go ahead and get these threaded in, which, by the way, another point, just the tolerance here is phenomenal on how tight this is, but that we still have clearance, and all of these bolts are lining up so far. Double checking that these are actually threading in before I put an impact on them. And they are. By the way, you want to come back with a ratchet or a wrench and do a final tighten. You don't want to use your impact to do that. Now we can thread this back on and do the backrest. And now finally, we put our backrest on with the remaining 10 millimeter fasteners here, which there's 4 left over. No extras. Make sure that lines up. I think that's a square, by the way. So I think it's, well, yeah. my logo's the correct way. Make sure your logo's correct. And once again, before anybody complains, I've got my setting on 1. I had it on auto where it was automatically stopping as well, but I've got it on 1 and just letting it snug up and then pulling off the trigger. So it's not like I'm not over torquing those at all. And there we have it. It's very obvious that the typical shop stool has no comparison to the Vyper Chair. So this is the typical off-the-shelf, right out of the box store, cheapest on the internet shop stool with hydraulic cylinder, right? And it's the same thing. They last about a year, if that, and then you replace them, they get flat spots on the casters or the caster nuts come all apart. Anyway, we realize the problems with this, but let's look at some of the obvious differences here. Number one, you see the foam compression here. First, we get about 1 inch of foam, so once we get the probably 1/4 inch plywood, and then maybe 1.5 inches of foam. But it's a very low density foam, so you can see, and as you realize when you sit down on your butt for about 5 minutes, you realize you're sitting on the wood versus high density foam that you have here, but it's not like a rock either, so you can get foam to where it gets so hard it's almost sitting on wood. That's not the case here. This is a nice density foam that not only is going to be nice and firm and kind of hold its shape where you're not sitting down on that wood, at the same time provide some cushion as well. Looks like we get 3-inch foam. At first I said 4-inch, but I think we got about a 4-inch overall, about 3 3/4 overall. And I believe it's 3/4 inch plywood there. So that's about a 3-inch high density foam that's going to last a long time. We talked about the cover, the double stitching there. Very nice embroidery on there as well that you can get logoed if you want to, or just stick with the Vyper Chair logo. And then the backrest, that offers some support. Now, we have some shop stools that have backrests on them. As you realize, most of the time you lean back on them and you don't feel comfortable leaning back on them, at least leaning a lot of weight back on them, because you feel like you're going to either tip over or things are just going to fall apart. Not the case on this. You get very well made, very nice engineered steel. Obviously, it has been template cut out of probably a CNC laser cut machine, and then welded all together. So all welded design, all powder coated. We got the black textured finish. Obviously, you could go with red, blue, whatever color you wanted, maybe gloss finish if you wanted to. We went the black texture coat and all black chair, black covering as well, and the red casters. Again, you can choose what you want to. That's another thing, the casters. You can go to Harbor Freight and buy cheap casters if you want to, and they're going to last about as long as you would intend a $20 set of casters to last. If you actually shop very well-made casters, you realize that you can quickly get into $100 for a few casters, if not more. These are really well-made 4-inch casters. So we get polyurethane coated casters that have a nice feel to them. It doesn't feel like you're rolling on steel. Ball bearings, ball bearing trunnions as well, or ball bearing axis, so it spins rather easy. It's going to turn really easy. If anything about this stool as far as negativity is that it rolls too easy. You will actually, it'll roll away from you. You'll go about as fast as you want to go. As far as the quality made stuff, top notch. Hardened steel bolts, we get an aluminum center hub there, we get the Acme screw, which by the way, they've also got a quick lift design now where you can get, I believe it's like a solid steel rod with a type of fastener or a type of clamp where you can just pull the quick release, raise it up or lower it down, or you can get the Acme screw as we have here where you can spin it round and round, then clamp it down. Everything's made really, really well. Also made right here in the USA. Made in Green Bay, Wisconsin. We're really enjoying bringing more and more products to light that are made right here in the USA. We're excited about that. Check out the Vyper Chair. No, it's not for everyone. This is about $600 to get the high elevated stool. As you see it here, it's going to be close to $600. I know half of you, your jaw's hitting the ground. I get it. I get it. Not everybody's just going to be, trash their shop stool type of stool and pay $600 for it. But there are some of you, guys that are doing fab work, doing a lot of TIG work, even people, sitting at a workbench, maybe assembling motor parts, things like that. where you're sitting a lot and you realize the value in comfort, the value in keeping your back from feeling like trash when you walk off the job. So there are some of you that absolutely understand the value of this. Also, you can see by the build design, this thing is going to last forever. You might wear out some cushions, but as far as everything else, it's going to last. Check it out from vyperchair.com. Also, keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you don't mind, would you give us that thumbs up or hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already? And by all means, if you hated our video, then give us a thumbs down. But would you let us know in the comments why? Have a great day and keep smiling.